Today's experience was sent to us by a sister from Uganda. She was shown 2 major churches in America and how they are leading many into the kingdom of darkness. Kindly stay to the end to know of these 2 churches and save yourself and your loved ones. Hello. My name is Gima Kalua. My cousins and I were just goofing around, nothing serious. I've never been the type of strict aunt who doesn't play with them. I've always tried to strike that balance, stern when needed, but lighthearted enough to join in their jokes from time to time. So when my 17-year-old cousin playfully pushed me while I was trying to step down from the stairs, it didn't feel like a big deal. It wasn't even meant to be hard, just a casual nudge like we usually do. But that moment was different. I lost my balance faster than I expected, and before I could catch myself, I was falling. Everything slowed down. I remember the feeling of weightlessness, my hand reaching out for something, anything, to stop the fall, but there was nothing. The next thing I knew, my head hit the floor with a thud. There was this sharp, jarring pain, and then nothing. Silence. Darkness. I passed out. I can't even describe the confusion that hit me. One minute I was laughing with them, the next, I was slipping away into something I couldn't understand. It was like my mind was screaming at me to wake up, to shake it off, but my body just wasn't responding. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. Everything became distant, like I was somewhere else far away. As I lay there in the silence, my first thought was that this had to be a dream. It felt unreal, like one of those moments when you're half awake and half asleep, trying to shake yourself out of it. I kept trying to move, to force my eyes open, but nothing was happening. My body wouldn't respond no matter how hard I tried. It was like I was trapped inside my own mind, watching everything but unable to do anything about it. Then, suddenly, I wasn't alone. A soft light surrounded me, and I saw figures coming towards me, about 10 of them. They had this glow around them, warm and comforting, like they were made of pure light. Their smiles were so peaceful, almost medicinal, like just seeing them was somehow healing. They didn't say anything at first, just reached out their hands toward me, and I felt this overwhelming sense of calm. But as I looked around, something clicked. When they pointed, I turned to see myself, my actual body, lying there on the floor, blood pooling around my forehead. My mom was in a panic, running back and forth, and I could feel her fear like it was my own. That's when it hit me, this wasn't a dream. This was something beyond anything I had ever experienced. The beings held my hand, gently but firmly, and one of them spoke, letting me know that they were messengers sent from the throne room of God. There was no fear in me, just a strange sense of peace, like I knew I could trust them. They told me they had come to reveal what God was displeased with, what He needed mankind to change. Before I could process their words, the scene around me shifted. Suddenly we were inside a church. It wasn't like any church I had been to before. The walls had American flags hanging from them, but I knew this place was in America, and I also saw on their billboard inside the church written Missouri, United States. The flags felt out of place, almost as if they were symbols for something deeper. The atmosphere was strange, and I could feel that something was off, but I didn't know what it was just yet. As I stood in the church, I noticed something strange about the stage. People were stepping forward to speak or lead, but I couldn't see their faces. They were just shadows, moving and gesturing like normal people, but their features were completely obscured. It was as if they had no real presence, just outlines. My heart sank a little. Whatever was happening here didn't feel right. Then, a woman stepped up to preach. She was the leader of this church. Her voice filled the room, but her words, while moving, felt empty. She wasn't preaching the gospel or anything solid. Instead, she spoke about the struggles people were going through, playing on their emotions. She was talking about things like relationships, money problems, and personal hardships, and every time she got more emotional, the crowd responded with cheers and nods of approval. They were eating it up, convinced she was a powerful preacher. But as I watched, one of the beings beside me leaned in and whispered, letting me know that the church is not living according to God's blueprint. It will gradually drift away from God's will if it continues like this. I then realized the preacher was only feeding the people what they wanted to hear, not what they needed to grow spiritually. As she continued, I saw something strange. Small, dark flies appeared, almost invisible, but they were there. They landed on the people, sinking into their skin as if being absorbed. The messengers told me that these were the effects of her words, words that were supposed to ignite fire and passion for God but instead brought spiritual death. The people were being lulled into complacency, becoming lukewarm Christians, not realizing their faith was slowly dying. The scene shifted again, and I found myself in another church. This time, I saw a banner that read Dallas, Texas. The atmosphere felt different. On the stage stood a preacher, towering over the congregation. From the moment he began speaking, it was clear that his focus wasn't on salvation or the gospel, it was all about prosperity. Every word he spoke was about wealth, success, and material blessings. He kept telling the people that if they followed certain steps, God would give them everything they desired: money, cars, luxury. As I watched him preach, something strange caught my eye. A long, invisible rope seemed to stretch from his presence, weaving its way through the crowd. It wasn't a real rope, but a spiritual one, binding each member of the congregation. It wrapped around them, tying them down as if to keep them stuck in place. The more he spoke about prosperity, the tighter the rope became. One of the messengers leaned in again, speaking softly, revealing to me that what I'm seeing is the spiritual state of these people. They are being bound by the promises of wealth, and their spiritual growth is being stunted. They're tied to the idea that material success equals God's favor, and when they don't receive the riches this preacher promises, many of them will lose faith altogether. I realized how dangerous these preachers' teachings were. Not only were they distracting people from true spiritual growth, but they were also setting them up for disappointment and disillusionment. The more they clung to the hope of prosperity, the further they drifted from the truth of the gospel. As the vision continued, the messengers made their purpose even clearer. One of them spoke again, revealing to me that it's God desires His church to return to Christ, to the true foundation on which it was built. The focus must be on Him, not on wealth, not on emotions, not on human philosophies. Their words echoed in my heart. I could feel the weight of it. The church had strayed so far from what God intended. Instead of being a place of spiritual growth and transformation, many had become platforms for feel-good messages or prosperity promises. The messengers emphasized that God wanted His church to be restored, to realign with the teachings of Christ, where the truth of the gospel is central, not the distractions of the world. Then, they showed me something beautiful, a vision of what the church could be. I saw the fire of the Holy Spirit igniting believers, burning with passion and truth. This fire wasn't just emotional hype, it was a deep, soul-transforming blaze that would light up the hearts of those who truly sought God. The messengers explained that this was how the church was meant to be, full of fire, full of life, and grounded in the truth of Jesus Christ. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in a hospital bed. The bright lights above me blurred as I struggled to focus, my head throbbing with pain. My mother's worried face came into view, and I realized I was back in the physical world. The last thing I remembered was lying on the floor with blood around my head, but now, here I was. I could hardly believe what had just happened. It felt like a dream, but I knew deep down that it wasn't. The encounter had been real, so real that I couldn't shake the images or the words of the messengers. As I lay there, reflecting on everything, the weight of the experience settled over me. I had seen things that I never thought I would. I had been shown the truth about the state of many churches, the dangers they posed, and the consequences of straying from God's plan. It wasn't just about me anymore. I feel a strong responsibility to tell believers to be cautious of churches that preach only emotional sermons. Sermons that make you feel good but don't challenge you spiritually are dangerous. They lure you in with comforting words but leave your soul starving for the truth. Materialistic sermons are just as harmful. The constant focus on prosperity and wealth can bind you, pulling you away from what really matters, your relationship with God. These messages trap believers, making them chase after worldly things instead of seeking true spiritual growth. I encourage every believer to seek Christ-centered teachings. Look for churches that preach the gospel, that ground you in the truth of Jesus Christ. It's through Him that we grow, that we find our purpose, and that we are truly transformed. Anything else is a distraction that can slowly kill your spiritual life. After all I had seen, I couldn't ignore the specific warnings given about Missouri and Dallas. Believers in those places need to be aware of the spiritual state of their churches. I urge them to be vigilant, to not just accept what is being preached at face value. In Missouri, the emotional sermons that play to people's feelings rather than challenging them to grow spiritually are dangerous. They may seem powerful in the moment, but they lead to lukewarm faith and spiritual death over time. In Dallas, the focus on prosperity preaching has created a congregation bound by the false promise of wealth. These teachings prevent true spiritual growth, trapping believers in materialism. I urge you, especially in these regions, to seek the truth, to research the churches you attend, and to discern what you hear. Not every sermon is from God. The messengers revealed to me that believers must be discerning in what they accept and reject. If the focus is on Christ, the gospel, and spiritual growth, then you are in the right place. But if all you hear are words designed to make you feel good or promises of wealth and success, beware. These teachings will not feed your soul, they will bind it. Thank you for staying to the end of this experience. Save a soul by sharing this video with your friends and families, so that they will be saved from the path of hell. Subscribe to our channel if you have not, to remain updated whenever we share another experience that is being sent to us. Thank you.